Hey guys, it's me, Rasmus, and welcome to your new Drone Wars Devlog. Yes, I know, it's been a while, but I've been busy playing Battlefront and getting like 1,500 subscribers on my other YouTube channel. But of course I've also worked a lot on Drone Wars, especially the last couple of weeks. Anyways, let's go through everything that I've done since the last devlog, or at least some of the most important things I've done, since I probably don't even remember everything. So as you can see, I've done a lot of work on the map since the last devlog. I've added lots of new objects, and the map finally feels like a map and not just like a boring test map. However, the map is still not done yet, and there's still a lot of detail I want to add. I also optimized the map a bit by making all world objects static and adding occlusion culling, which basically means only the things that the player currently can see will get rendered. So in case you have ever tried to play the old crappy Drone Wars 1, you might remember the train. However, this time I wanted to do a bit more. So I made a new train model in Blender, and this time the players can actually go inside the train and travel with it, and not just get killed by it, like in the last version. So moving players with a moving platform is always a bit tricky, since the players would normally just fall off the platform or glitch through a collider as soon as the platform starts moving at a higher speed. So to prevent this from happening, I added a trigger collider inside the train, which will detect if a player goes inside the train, and then attach the player to the train object, and thereby the player will automatically get moved smoothly with the train. Although smoothly is probably not the right word yet, actually it looks kinda glitchy most of the time, but it works. And since using the train isn't really the main objective of the game, I'll let it be for now. There was a kind of funny glitch with the trigger collider system though, because apparently the trigger collider doesn't detect if a collider gets teleported in or out of the trigger area. So when a player died while being inside a train, the player wouldn't get detached from the train object. Because if a player dies, the player object simply gets disabled and then teleported to the new spawn point and re-enabled after the respawn cooldown. So this means the train would then still be able to move the player even though the player isn't inside the train anymore. And that looked kinda funny. Luckily this wasn't really hard to fix. I simply let the die method inside the player script call the functions that otherwise the untrigger exit method would call, and that pretty much fixed the issue. I actually had to do something similar in the capture point system that I worked on for a new game mode. It's basically like Supremacy in Battlefront 2. There are 2 to 3 capture points depending on how many players there are in the server, and the objective is basically just to capture the points, and the team that currently has the most points captured will receive points constantly. And at the end of the round, the team with the most points will then win the round, obviously. So currently the capture points look like this. The color of the hologram in the middle indicates whether a capture point is captured by your team or by the enemy team, or if it's not captured at all. If it's not captured at all, it is white. If it's captured by the enemy team, it's red, and if it's captured by your team, it's blue. I still have to add some sort of UI indication that displays how long until you have captured the point, because right now the only way you see if you're actually capturing the point is through looking at the scoreboard and getting points for capturing. But that's probably something I'll take care of later when I'll work more on the in-game UI with OfficerYoda. Speaking of UI, OfficerYoda finally finished the design for the main menu, and it really looks amazing in my opinion. And I of course implemented it right away, and it pretty much all works already. I had to add some extra stuff for the inventory system and the leaderboard system, but that also works now. Speaking of inventory, I added a new group of items, the flag items, which are literally just country flags that you can attach to your drone, and then the flag will be visible on the front of your drone. With the inventory system, I also added the round end screen, which now also displays your drone with your actually equipped skin, which currently is the only way of actually seeing your own skin on a game server. However, other players will always see your skins. I actually thought of adding third person, which then obviously would allow you to see your own skin while playing, which would be nice, but I think third person might be nice in general, so I'm thinking of adding that. Anyways, I'll probably start working more on the combat system soon, because currently there's only one weapon for each character class, and it's basically just a laser, and the current reloading mechanic is completely bugged. Like, it's not synced with the server correctly somehow. So often your client might tell you you're currently reloading so you can't shoot, but if you press the shoot button you'll actually end up shooting, because on the server you aren't actually reloading. Yeah, stuff like that. I also want to smooth out the recoil a bit. There was actually an interesting bug with the recoil. So the thing was, my brother just kept killing me insanely fast every time when he played as a human, and I thought like, what the fuck, since when does he have that good aim? And how can he control that recoil so good? And it turned out that the lower your sensitivity, the lower your recoil was, and he had basically no recoil, and I play on a pretty high sensitivity, so I had insanely strong recall. So yeah, I kinda got punished there for my own stupidity when it comes to coding. One thing that I actually already added before the last devlog, I just forgot to mention it in the last devlog, is some sort of UI for server admins. And this is actually extremely useful for me when testing the game. So the way it works, I can select one or more players in a small player list that gets displayed, and then I can do different actions with them, change their character class, change their team ID, stuff like that. I can also force a round restart, I can ban players, kick them, yeah, pretty much everything a server admin needs to be able to do. Okay, I think that were most of the more important changes I did since the last devlog. I just want to talk about something before I end this video. So the thing is, the game is currently like 90% server authoritative, the movement is server authoritative, the shooting is server authoritative, and I actually spent a huge amount of time back then getting this to work. And the good thing about server authoritative movement is it's basically impossible to create like fly hacks and basically every type of movement cheats. And the way this works is if a player presses a movement key, this client will send information to the server about which keys got pressed, and the server will then execute the movement and send the resulting position back to the client and to all the other clients. So a client has basically no way of manipulating his position. However, there will always be a small delay between the client sending information to the server about which keys got pressed and then the server sending back the position information, which leads to the movement not feeling responsive. So basically you press a button and you don't see your player moving before a few milliseconds later. So to make this feel responsive, there's something called client prediction and server reconciliation, which I think I've talked about in earlier devlogs, but I will just go quickly through it again. So client prediction just means that your client will execute the movement right away when you press a movement key, and then later let the server confirm your position. And if both your client and the server have the same idea of where your position is, everything's fine. If not, your client will have to snap your position back to where the server says your position is. And this is what we refer to as rubber banding. Now the problem I have in Drone Wars is the movement works fine most of the time, but in some cases, when you keep changing position really fast, you might end up getting a lot of rubber banding, which kinda sucks. So I'm actually currently thinking of making the movement client authoritative, which would get rid of the rubber banding issue entirely, and make it a lot easier for me to do adjustments on the movement code, and in general give me a bit more freedom when it comes to movement, but in return it's pretty easy to cheat. And also I've spent a lot of time on getting the server authoritative movement to work, so it kinda sucks to just remove it now. So yeah, let me know what you think about this. Would you rather have a nice movement that feels really good, but it is really easy to make cheats for it? Or would you rather have a cheat secure movement that sometimes might have issues with the rubber banding? One thing I forgot to mention is I added lag compensation since the last devlog, which basically just allows the client to aim directly at the player and still hit him, even though the client technically sees the past of the other client's positions because of networking delay. So the way this works is the server will take the ping from the client that shot and thereby calculate when the player actually pressed the shoot button. And then the server goes back in time and checks where all the players were at that time and then executes the shooting. Okay, I think this was pretty much everything. Thank you all for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.